Hello there, and welcome to this edition of Thought for the Week. It's good to be with you again. I was very impressed with many of the things that were said about the late Billy Graham, the great evangelist. He was a very remarkable man, wasn't he? But I remember when I was first converted, when I was born again, I was given a book by a friend, and the writer of this book was extremely critical of Billy Graham. And being a young Christian, I'd only been converted about a month, I devoured this book. And the opinions expressed by this critic became my opinion straight away. Well, it's what young Christians do, isn't it? You tend to form your opinions from the last book you wrote. So I was holding forth to an old friend. When I say old, I mean an aged friend. He was a brethren elder in more ways than one. A wise man, a lovely man, full of the love of the Lord. And I was talking to him about Billy Graham and criticizing him for the way he made appeals and things like this. And I shall never forget the moment when my friend Jim looked at me and he said, with real compassion in his voice, but also a degree of amusement, well, he said, Chris, I'll just say this. I'd rather have his way of doing it than your way of not doing it. And that hit me like a sledgehammer. I thought, there's wisdom for you. Because as far as I was concerned, my evangelism was a very poor thing. Billy Graham was a master evangelist. And so my friend's wise words struck deep. But the more I thought about ministry, the more I thought about how we are to be in this world, the more challenged I became to see that as a disciple of Jesus, I've got to do what Jesus did, so that it could be said that I'd rather have Jesus' way of doing it than my way of not doing it, but my responsibility is to do what he does. That's the nature of discipleship. That's what a disciple is. A good word that is a more modern equivalent of the word disciple would be the word apprentice. My dad used to have apprentices. He was an electrician, and he had apprentices, and they became like him. He trained them to work in exactly the way he did so that they could achieve the same ends that he achieved. And when they'd finished qualifying as apprentices and they began to function as electricians in their own right, it was always fascinating when the companies they worked for, who knew my dad, would say to the apprentice, "Aha, I know who trained you. You were trained by Ernie Hill, weren't you? I can see him in the way you do things." And I thought that a very interesting thing. And in my discipleship, I have to learn to do everything the Jesus way. Jesus is the wonderful, wonderful master craftsman. He is the God of goodness. And he has lived in this world as the expression of his Father, and everything he does is good. And when I'm following him, when I'm trusting him, when I'm living according to his word and his way, then I'm a good disciple. That's for sure. And that's something I strive for. I really want to be everything my Saviour wants me to be, so that he can say to me at the end of my life, "Well done, good and faithful servant. What you did was very good." A reflection of me. That's what I hope Jesus can say. It'll bless me enormously if I even approach that. Well, the Lord bless you. Thank you so much for being with me. I look forward to talking to you next time. Bye-bye for now.